Yeah.
Sure. Let me.
Yeah.
I gotta go check my cabbage real quick, and then I'll be back.
All right.
Um.
Okay, this is all interesting. I wish I was there to listen to this.
Just so you're aware, it was a matter of I don't think any of us knew how many people we were getting mixed messages. Don't bring too many people. Bring people. Don't, you know what I mean? So it was kind of outside of if you weren't intentionally left out, Roman is.
No, I'm not saying that. I just wish I was there to listen so I could have a better understanding. Is all.
Yeah, I got you.
So, how is legislation being made now?
By each of the 4 branches, and they sort of govern their own sector.
So the DOJ legislation is held by judges, I'm guessing?
Mm-hmm. And then if the 2 mayors agree on a legislation or law, then it becomes statewide, as opposed to just in one of the jurisdictions.
Okay, that makes sense. Interesting, because... Okay, so we're back to the old way. Judges have more power now.
No. Please correct me if I'm wrong in anything I'm about to state. I tried to remain mostly quiet because I do have some concerns. However, generally speaking, when I listen to everything that they said, there's enough unknowns to us that it's hard to really do much more than speculate. However, some things were made clear. For example, every position, including that there of judges, can be put up for review. And while it is true that the initial constitution and amendments thereafter will be put into place by the remaining judges, the mayors that are elected will have the ability on their own accord, if agreed upon, push laws to the state level. If there were a case, for example, where judges were to enact some form of legislation at the state level that, say, either fell outside the realm of the Constitution or alternatively entered into a realm that made the law egregious, we still have the ability to get that law redacted through due process. So
just like the common law common law that's out now of bicycles or motor vehicles.
Yeah, so I don't think it's like of old, because of old judges could pass shit and you couldn't do anything about it, right?
Yeah,
judges could pass shit and then you would subsequently have to make like any case law that came out of it was still abiding by the laws that they put in. But let's say the judges came, and I'm going to use an extreme example, right? If the judges came in and they said, you know, people under the age of 25 can no longer, you know, operate a motor vehicle, we have still a lot of avenues. You could pull those judges out, you could put them for review, you could, through due process, get that entire thing repealed. Now, so there are avenues that we didn't have previously. I think the big change that's coming into play is that the Constitution that's very bare bones today is getting significantly more thorough and will be effectively the law of the land. And in turn, if we retroactively had that, a lot of the legislation that has been passed by the city council would simply be found as unconstitutional. So it's kind of true what you're saying, Roman, but I think they are providing a much more robust system that and in turn, we're actually getting a lot more authority than we would have previously had.
With that being said, I think one of these avenues that Nino's talking about is that if one of us went to the docket and made a filing, which is either individual plaintiff or people verse the title of that legislation, and then create a statement of claim, yada yada yada. Almost if it's a civil action against someone else, it's could be essentially an action against the legislation itself, where either an argument could be made on the docket. Previously, that would have been something I'd be scared to do, but after going to that meeting, that's something I've put in my bag of tricks to try one day.
So who's holding the judges accountable?
I said anyone. People.
Okay, but who
I will
oversees
say
that
this:
process,
the
I guess?
judges, yeah, who would oversee that? Because judges are clicking.
They said it was an independent third party.
Yeah.
Okay, so like a state or like a federal government sort of situation.
Yeah.
But then how do you contact them to get?
How would it even be a case at that point if you have something like that's a case-worthy thing against a judge? Another judge.
We don't know the guidelines. Haven't
You see why I want
yet.
Abigail?
It's
Chat?
only 90% complete, so it's like the ideas there is just they're still cooking.
We don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like we
Said-
should all be cooking along with them, sort of. Like we should all be involved in that process.
So, if I'm gauging this right from what you said earlier, Robin, the next vote is literally just going to be two mayor vote, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep. No more city
Interesting.
council, two separate mayors. They get to make the laws of their, respective areas. If they have both agree on a law, that would then in turn be upgraded to a state level law. I don't know if it would be it would infer into one, right? Like if both counties are like class 2 is illegal, is it inferred state level because they're, you know what I'm saying? Because there's only two areas, or does it actually get upgraded?
From what Adam said, he said it wouldn't become a state law; it would just be applied statewide.
Ah, okay. He did use those specific. So it's inferred. So, in theory, that would mean. Please do correct me if I'm wrong. So, in theory, if the next election, one side could repeal it, and it does, could just repeal it on this side.
Then it falls back to the jurisdiction.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
I guess my concern with all of that is it feels like it's a bit over. What if you have what if you have one county that's doing something similar to what we just experienced, and you have another county that's doing things great? How do you hold the other county accountable? I guess it's going to be through this state or federal person. Like a Switzerland.
Through the entity review, I think they called it.
So if we, so the DOJ can pass its own legislation, but we have to go through judges to try and pass legislation. Is that what I'm?
Oh, the mayor.
Yeah, the mayor. So look,
we
if
would
the
just
city
go
of Los
solely to
Santos wants to make, driving laws like 150 miles an hour or some shit, that's it. The mayor decides. But as they mentioned, I don't know why it kept getting said in a convoluted way. Yes, there is a mayor, but that mayor is gonna likely put a cabinet around him, right? So you don't have one guy just going around doing all. It could happen, but if one person's just in there just making bozo decisions without any think tank surrounding him, well, then it's more likely that mayor is going to end up getting kicked out of office, get reviewed, et cetera, due to incompetence that will naturally come with just making bozo decisions.
Like one of
So
the
what's
avenues
going to happen? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Robin.
I just said one of the avenues they said how a review could be initiated is through a public petition if you get enough signatures. Things like that. So it's not just so it's a bit less official in that sense, where the voice of the people does matter. So if enough people just disagree with something, it can be reviewed. Which leads to what Nino was saying about just one person standing up there making all the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So my question then becomes, if the city and the county have different laws. Something starts in the city and then they flee out to the county. Which laws are we going to have to be arguing in court if somebody wants to appeal?
Yep.
Where the crime was committed.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I would assume, but you never know.
Yeah.
Well, that brings
Now we're
in.
going to have to know two sets of laws if they don't agree with each other.
But sorry, I was gonna say, but like if you do a crime up north and then you continue down south and do more crime there, then it becomes like, is it still gonna be the jurisdiction of where the
I think
thing originated?
What Angel said was that, let's say you, I don't know, recklessly evade. And you recklessly evade through the county, and you continue to recklessly evade through the city, and for some reason, there are different times and fines in the county versus in the city. It most likely will just end up being the higher of the two. It won't be like 2 times reckless evading. It'll be whichever county has the higher time and fine that will be applied.
Yeah.
I like this.
Oh, that's what they were talking about during that time. Okay.
This is gonna be fun.
Yeah, I agree. I think the bit that I was hyper stuck on, because it kept getting convoluted, maybe it's just me, is what you said earlier, which was there will never really be any state laws. It's just perceived state laws if both sides agree.
No,
And
I think that there will be. They said there will be state laws, like
there will be, but
murder,
not from the
I
mayor.
would assume capital offenses, attempted murder, the big ones will still probably be state laws, but then the smaller ones, like reckless evading, maybe they leave that up to the counties to decide what the time and punishment or the time and fine is for that. Or
I do have one question once you're done.
Or maybe that there is something that happens in the county that doesn't happen as frequently in the city, and so they feel like it's necessary to make a law about it. That kind of thing.
Yeah, so like very limited ones. My main concern around that was, 'cause in my mind, I'm thinking like, if it's not very, very like big level crimes, does that infer that 5% of the total population of this island has the voting power to deadlock something?
I feel like we need to give them a little bit of credit. I don't think that they're going to go through all of this work and this process and come out of this and basically leave us in like a bad position.
Yeah.
This is to help us, to help the people, and I definitely think that there will be plenty of state laws, and then from there, additional laws can be created.
The one question I have real quick is, did they say anything about the waters of this island?
No.
There's a lot of unknowns. Like they didn't deep dive into it too much.
I feel like they'll have to address that when they divide.
That's what I was thinking. How would you go about that? Because it's interesting. But I'll go back
I
to
think
the
the kid's point, like I totally agree. Like there's a couple things where it's like my brain was getting kind of wrapped up, but it's like there's so many unknowns. I doubt they're gonna come and do some hyperbozo shit where we're left. They're judges, right? So I'm sure they're gonna think through some of these things, and anything that becomes a problem, I believe from the sound of it, there's going to be avenues to get those things resolved.
And I think that there is like a lot more focus on creating further legislation after this. Like we have to remember that this is foundations, right? This is the groundwork, and then they're giving us the tools to then create further legislation. They even said it, if we find holes, within the legislation, it's kind of up to us whether or not we want to exploit them or we want to work to patch them up.
Yeah, I was told by a judge that, all of us need to start taking almost every single thing and pushing it to the docket. even if we take an L, because we can get things changed and everything. And they were also talking about how to go through the council and stuff, but now that's out the window. It's just through the mayors, which is good. It's very interesting. I'm a little like caught off guard by it right now because I'm trying to think of everything.
I think.
Okay, so I
need a general,
because this is what I've heard. I don't know for a fact.
Chat.
So we don't have.
I need to start a militia.
No.
And I've heard that there are 2 judges that just quit recently.
Yeah.
Which judges quit?
Serge Cross and Willie Quarry.
Yeah.
And they said that they removed at least one judge.
Yeah.
They removed Judge Habibi.
And there was one more, right? Like an unknown.
One that they didn't name.
Yeah.
Right now, the judges that I know of are Gatsby, Adams, Bailey, and Angel. There may be others, but those are the ones I know for certain.
Adelaide Hart,
Judge Jackson.
I'm kidding.
And what's crap?
This is gonna be so fun, chat. I think focusing like like I'm naturally always gonna find holes. That's what I do.
My understanding recently.
Software engineer, role playing
specifically no, but
a lawyer, right?
But interesting.
But like this sounds sick.
Why those 2 judges quit?
No.
Nope.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Glory, I can't remember the last time I heard anybody bring up his name, so I don't,
yeah.
Got a Twitter outburst yesterday.
Okay, well, has he done anything legal-wise, not just twatter?
Well, the last time
Glory,
he got kidnapped.
Yeah, he's I need food desperately.
Oh, I can give you some.
Oh my god, thank you so much. Well, I guess he didn't want to give me any food. That's fine. Didn't have to do that.
But before my case earlier today,
food. You got some.
someone brought up Crane leaving to Judge Adams and asked if Adams is a new Chief Justice, and Adams said no, but there will be a new one. So.
Oh, wait.
Harmony's on
really?
Bailey.
Yeah.
Yeah, he may have just been, putting up an illusion just to keep face until this was said, but.
Yeah, see, I Bailey inferred something different to me. Honestly, there's so much like, I think it's very important to discuss some of the matters, but I do think that there's so many unknown unknowns that we could speculate until tsunami. And I do want to go and tackle the original intent of this meeting, which I think does realign slightly. So I'll stop by mentioning what was this meeting initially sort of planned for. First and foremost, I wanted to kind of get obviously I'm still campaigning, just a little bit different. I don't think it really too much changes. I don't want to, Grace, I know you and Roman got a spot up here, I don't know where everyone around here works, but I don't see my day-to-day changes. I'm mostly in the city. I think those things that are applicable to lawyers are going to remain applicable. And even if, say, one of y'all lives in Blaine County, that doesn't mean that I become unavailable and your concerns magically like disappear, right? Use an example, Grace, let's say you live up here and your job as an attorney becomes impossible for whatever reasons there might be in Blaine County. That is still important to me because at the end of the day, lawyers do represent, the whole. So I want to stop by saying that something that I find to be a core desire of mine is to elevate the lawyers well beyond your current status in the city. I think lawyers have been not even a second thought, a third thought. Lawyers have been put so much into the corner that they become pretty much irrelevant. I think that is underlined by this lack of FOIA being in legislation, or it being unaddressed for so long, for the way that you were treated in the cells which, if you haven't, all that much better. But, I've heard enough stories that it's bad enough in my mind. Instead, I would, by the end of my term, I would like to get to a point where the lawyers themselves have significantly more control over bar licensing and training. Now, I know that's a big goal to reach. I don't even know if it's going to be possible. I mean, I could get a big fuck you from the feds. However, I believe very strongly that in order for there to be a balance of power, authority, etc., that is something that is necessary to remove any politics or heavy opinions between how the judges feel and then how the lawyers feel, because inherently you do represent the people of Los Santos probably more than any other position in the city, right? You defend them, you write contracts for them.
Sorry, I'll be right back.
Yeah. Likely see them more than anyone. So, how that is done is going to be a joint effort. It's not just going to be Nino, Chavez, and Kit, right, that are going to do it. It's going to be everyone in this circle, and hopefully 3 times as much over the many months to come. Now, I don't want to just say this and then expect it's magically going to come true. I want to work with you on a almost weekly basis, even before the campaign. And then once I am elected, I know I'm getting ahead of myself here, but, I'd rather think in positives, and set milestones in place that improves your quality of work, that's the wrong phrase, your quality of life, which in turn improves your quality of work, right? Your ability to work is what I'm trying to get at. And the ability to succeed. And hopefully inspire more people to take on that mantle. It is not beyond me that, a lot of y'all are probably being fairly new to practicing law around the city, right? But I think there's enough talent here to make up for many of the lawyers that have disappeared in the past. So, and maybe we'll get some of them to come back.
I don't know if sorry to interrupt you.
No,
I don't know
please.
if anybody recently has had this issue or not, since the new FOIA process was put into legislation. But has anybody tried FOIAing something since that's been put through?
Oh, I
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you guys had officers pretty much say you gotta wait all those 3 days, even if it gets okayed?
No, they said, so they said basically it could be up to 72 hours before you receive it, but you will receive it within 72 hours. And I received it in about 2 hours.
All right.
Yes.
Because
That's exactly what I experienced.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to figure it out, because there were some officers that were giving me a little bit of a hard time. They're like, well, with the way the FOIA is written, it's like I have 72 hours to give this to you. Pretty much the same thing as the last one, where it's like, oh, I have 4 days to, put my stuff in there and all that. And I'm just...
So I have, Roman. However, that is because I requested like 7 of them. And the way that my understanding of the process is, like, and if this isn't already being done, I think it's best to give them a document, date stamped, so you have a receipt and record. I've been doing it via contract, so I'm signing it, they're signing it. There's no question of whether or not they received it. They then subsequently have to notify each of the owners of those reports, and then there's a 72-hour window. So it's also possible that some of them are using that 72 to say, hey, I don't know if this office is going to get this or if he's actually going to deliver it. With that said, while it is true that in a perfect world that we receive these, in a perfect world, if 3 days have passed, any lawyer should be able to go up there, FOIA it, and get it immediately, in my opinion. And if there is a need for amendment, that is still within, they should still be able to do that and just send you the update, or alternatively, if it goes to docket, they just do it during discovery phase. But, you know, the thing is, I think the way to look at this is we went from FOIA's not being in legislation, now being in legislation. And while we didn't get everything we wanted, we got a lot more, right?
Yeah.
Because 3 days is a lot better than, what was it, 45?
Yeah, because the two that I had recently that I had a little issue with. I got one of them. I'm still waiting on the other because I think they sent it to the wrong state ID. Is what is it? For traffic violations and for like cut and dried sale of drug calls where there's only 2 officers. They kind of wanted to wait the full 72 hours and everything for both of them. And I'm like, it's a traffic violation. You have all your stuff there and they're in it.
There's no evidence to be gathered. So what's the hold up?
When did you request it?
I requested it. I'm gonna say since I was down in the dumps for 2 weeks, I requested it on the 13th day, and they said, we gotta go look over it and everything. I'm like, it's been 13 days.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, was even the new FOIA system enacted 13 days ago?
No, not 13 days ago. It was, I requested it
13 days after the traffic stop.
Yeah, 13 days after the traffic stop. So you would think all their evidence stuff is in there, and I'm having a headache again.
But like, when did he request it though? Was it like a week ago? Like,
he said
that's a good question.
Yeah, he said like 2 days ago. But I think what you. Yeah.
The only thing I would say to that is
Abigail is about to say what I'm thinking. This is why I want her in our cabinet.
Last weekend was pretty busy for a lot of people, and so a lot of people might have been out of town. So
Abilene.
But it's not just that. The legislation as is states that it's upon request. So the police, they arrest, whatever, dozens, maybe hundreds of people a day. They're not going to lock in on everything and be like, this is going to go to FOIA, that's going to go to FOIA. They got to wait until they get the request, and then give it a once over. So I can understand that.
I mean, we understand if there are a lot of officers involved in something and it was a big deal or whatever. But for a traffic stop where, they give the ticket, they move on, there's no evidence to be collected, there's no anything else, it shouldn't take them a full 72 hours to get that back to us.
Yep. Agreed. I think
they're weaponizing the system.
I don't think we should make generalizations.
Yeah.
I think that sure, there may be a couple officers that take advantage of that, but making those broad claims, where there are probably quite a few officers who are they just want to get it over with and they get you the FOIA, like
I'm
Abigail and I both
specifically about the
experienced.
traffic things, not everything.
Yeah. I will say that we still, well, now he's not here anymore, but if I'm gonna go based off the past, okay, so when I last spoke to Crane, he inferred that we always had the ability to make a complaint if those things are happening, and that officer is supposedly supposed to get reprimanded, even if like in an incident like the one you're referencing. I don't know if this new FOIA process necessarily continues to allow us to do it, but I do think that is something that perhaps should turn into a formal complaint, maybe even a lawsuit.
I mean, I was gonna say, wouldn't it make sense just to sue him?
Yeah, I absolutely. I do think though, because trust me when I say that I am very much in agreement. I want that shit like immediately. The way that I've been approaching it though is saying like, okay, we got 80% of I think what we didn't have before, and that remaining 20%, we should start to collectively, I think, document this sort of thing. And I think this is the beauty of this sort of group here, is document these sort of things and have these kind of conversations, and then not necessarily with a class action, but come with like a couple pages worth of examples and be like, here's what's happening, and based on this, we are looking to amend the FOIA process with these new changes to prevent that. And I feel like that would be more appreciated by the new system that they're kind of aiming towards. You kind of see what I'm saying? You agree, guys? Do you not do you disagree? Don't feel like you gotta hold back if you disagree with me. By the way, I know I can be very commanding with
I
my
don't know
voice.
how to judge it until the new system comes into place. I see that we have some interesting things that are coming in that might help us. I do wonder about the DOJ side of it, about being able to create legislation and everything. So lawyers can come to you with stuff, right? So, but can judges, since you said there's 4 legislative bodies, do they get to be able? I
I'd
may
assume
have
it's
missed
the same way. I'd assume it works the same way as it does now, where they do it through common law.
Yeah, common law, or alternatively, we can push for, like, for example, my understanding is that in this new vision, we could be like, all right, LSPD reports, you have 24 hours. Boom. Yeah.
Well, one like loophole trick, I'm sure you guys are aware. If you have the opportunity to request a bench trial, it's my understanding that upon receiving the report at a bench trial, you can sidebar to the judge and let them know upon reviewing the report that you're going to need to take this to the docket and motion for a dismissal. And then you get the report right away.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
they can
True.
also add to that report in the meantime, correct?
No.
You get more witness statements.
Well,
and things like that.
Yeah. No, they can.
If you're, that would kind of need to be, I think, mentioned to the judge and the officers that I'm taking this to the docket. I'm going to use this report, so that they know that they can't edit it any further. But basically, like, the way that reports for bench trials work is that that's kind of the finished deal, I don't know, honestly, because if you were going to take it to the docket, I think like they could make an argument that they do need more time with the report, because a lot of what happens with bench trials and reports is that I know myself as a police officer, when if I had to go to bench trial and I knew I was going to be testifying, I wouldn't put in a written statement because I was, making one verbally. But if it was if you were going to take that report to the docket, then I would say I need to put in a written statement now.
Well, I think you can add, though, right? Because you have up to 48 hours before the trial to add evidence. Just like if I was bringing a suit against the PD, I have up until 48 hours to submit new evidence. And
the report. So it's
they could add statements, whatever.
So, but when you add that separately from the report, like if you get witness statements, you add that as a separate.
I mean, that's for the PD to figure out, right? Like they would need to revise the report and motion to add that as.
That's something that we're gonna have to learn when it comes to that. But from what I'm understanding is that if they are comfortable enough to push to a bench trial as police officers, if you are comfortable, then that means that you have everything there for you for your case. Besides, if you haven't written your statement. So if they don't have everything in there, and they're just like on the fly, that's not a good thing.
Kit, you're about to say something?
I don't remember.
Oh.
I disagree with your assertion there, Roman, saying that the police are comfortable to push it to bench. Because if someone requests it,
I'm gonna say
they don't have a choice.
I mean, I'm gonna say something wild. Ladies, gentlemen, there's no legislation on whether they can or can't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What, as of the statement? We know.
Yeah. I mean, remember, everything's getting redone, right? Like whatever, and I think that's an important thing to take away is, I know, Grace, Roman, you weren't at the thing, so we're trying our best to kind of fill you in on it, but
Yeah, we didn't know there was a meeting.
that entire Constitution is, who knows what's going to be in it. It could literally be 2 more sentences, which I doubt, mind you, or it could be like a 4-page, like, heavily detailed, here is the 4th Amendment by which probable cause and reasonable suspicion derived. Here is like the full like details as to what is required in order to take these legislative steps. I know just from sort of talking to Bailey and his tone and shit that this guy's probably been locked away in front of a typewriter, for God knows how long. So there's likely gonna be a lot of things that are gonna be very hard for us to speculate on right now, and until that comes out, only then will we really know if things are like how things are gonna be defined out.
That's why I wish lawyers were involved in this process, because I'm thinking from like a contract perspective, right? Let's say Blaine County, like the bullshit with the business proposals where it gives the authority to search businesses without needing a warrant. Let's say I'm starting a business up north, right? And that same law applies. But here in Los Santos, officers can't do that. Well, when I'm drafting up the contract or whatever for my business or however that works, my governing law is just going to be Los Santos. So yes. I don't know, like that's going to be, I don't know if they're like thinking about that or how that's going to play out.
I think
everyone's going to be using a governing law that is more beneficial to them.
It's going to be extremely fun figuring all this out.
Yep.
There's going to be some headache, but I think it's going to be one of those things that we might have good fun being able to try and mold, in a sense.
Yeah.
On that note, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, and like the judges said, it's up to us to like look through it and find those holes, find, what's lacking, and then decide what to do with it.
I already know I'm going with Abigail. I'm telling you right now.
They said, we decide.
Especially like, after the conversation.
This is their
I like
words,
these
if we
guys.
Exploit those holes, or
now,
if we want to,
I
work
do
to
think
patch
that
them and
what's his name?
legislation.
Man, I keep forgetting his name. Rick, right? Is it Rick? Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna cook something even further. Is who's to say that we can't have magistrates in an area? Why can't Los Santos have magistrates that function as for traffic court? Why not?
Traffic court, bail hearings, probable cause hearings, expungements, parole conditions, like things that need to get done. That sometimes regular judges are like, oh, the headache. Well, that's a good time for one of these magistrates to cut their teeth on that and then earn that judge position.
I think we in that meeting was like, those judges are cooking up some like restrictions, but I think they just threw an entire block of Legos in front of us. And who's going to get to play with those? This circle and a couple more folks,
It does open up some interesting, because here's the thing that I mean everybody's noticed is we're down to technically 3 judges plus Chief Justice. Those seats are going to eventually have to get filled because, as we know, I think most of us, actually no, all of us can agree to this. Even when we request a bench trial, typically it's not taken because of lack of judges, and now that we have an even more severe lack of judges,
I'm gonna push for. I want to push for shit like that.
Hey, we need some new.
You know what I mean? Imagine why can't traffic
like
court
said,
be based on magistrates?
But there's gonna have to be new blood eventually.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, it can take them 4 months to get their bar license.
Well, I mean that goes back to that. I think this block of Legos. I am going to fucking play with those Legos. I like, you know, fuck this 4-month shit. Even if it means like bar licenses specific to Los Santos, that's a huge start even, right? Now, I didn't hear anything that inferred that we're not going to have like that. Those powers aren't going to be available, but I'm going to assume they are, because otherwise, you know. Oh shit. Well, there's a whole lot less to talk about outside of, you know, what could be, right? Is there any things that y'all have been running into at least recently that needs to be like raised up?
This is I don't mean to be that guy, but look, if I mean, this is a question for the new mayor, I guess, or I don't know how that's going to work, but look, if PD can make what $3,500 an hour and not know the difference between RS and PC,
lawyers are going to get pumped all the way up.
Lawyers need to get
my
especially if we're having to deal with all this, like, yeah.
So
I want to. Sorry,
I just want to answer this question real quick. My full intent is that I'm trying to get this done even before the election, but certainly very quickly. I already have someone working on getting all the state funds and creating a what do you call it? An economic breakdown, and trying to formulate rough estimates of everything from how much is sanitation making on a per capita basis in a 30-day period, roughly estimated what is the polling numbers of like star counts for sanitation workers, therefore how much is roughly being produced, roughly how much mechanic shops are using, and all this gets then cemented back into rough estimates of what the state income is per capita, and what the per capita expenditure is. What this means is EMS may effectively be making $2.5K an hour if they are given a $3.5K an hour paycheck, right? Lawyers might be making $2K an hour if given a $2K an hour paycheck. Everyone following me so far?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, now based on those new way of detailing the numbers, doctors are likely to be paid the most in the city, and that's a thank you for keeping us alive. And lawyers will likely be the number 2. $7.50 an hour is stupid as shit. We're effectively public defenders. It is not expected for clients to ever pay their attorneys. Now, I get paid here and there, right? But let's be honest, this is Los Santos. Motherfuckers will fight you, millionaires will fight you for $100 bill.
Oh yeah, I had to fight a millionaire for $1,000.
And given the fact that under the vision of...
was that Nicholas Simone?
Oh no, I haven't taken that one yet.
And under the vision of you know, the sort of way I want things to be running, I want y'all to be the legislators. Fuck this bullshit where, like, you know, obviously it's not happening anymore, but like 8 people sitting at a table coming up with some bullshit laws that they didn't think about, have no experience in, probably have no legal background, but instead put that power into the hands of the attorneys, so that y'all are empowered to write legislation, have a folks to help peer review it for you, be undersignees, and so that when it does ultimately hit the desk of the mayor's office, the work's already done, right? So whether it's like Roman and Grace, like pushing for some like vegetable reform or whatever, right? Because you guys, you know, I mean, as an example, right? Or like, you know, Tony, I don't know, maybe some little kid's been pissing you off, right? Or like you've been helping out some little kid and you're like, damn, here's some problems he's running into. Here's some legislation. Whether it's like, you know, let's say Kit, she's got like some friends that work at a mechanic shop, and like she's like, here's some reform. You know what I'm saying? Like that to me is a is a more efficient way of going about improving legislation than the old way. And
I've got two for you right now.
And you should be paid for it. Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Well, let's hear them. Let's hear them, Abby.
So, mandate bench trials based on new evidence too, not just an error in the judge's ruling or misconduct. That's an issue I came across early as an attorney, or even before I was an attorney. We had a client, and we did come up with new exculpatory evidence in the situation. We stated it was exculpatory on the docket, but the case got dismissed with prejudice based on the fact that a bench trial for the matter, a hasty bench trial, which we mentioned on the docket, occurred. But since we could not point out any error or misconduct on behalf of the judge, we did not have an opportunity to grant a full appeal to that client. So I think either mandate bench trials, mandate appeals based on appeals from bench trials based on new evidence, not misconduct. That's what I meant to say.
Ooh.
Or just a general mandate that all appeals are guaranteed, even if a bench trial occurs. The other thing I wanted to see mandated was police should not be talking to the clients at all after requesting a lawyer. And I think the same way lawyers have the bar complaint system, which people have been known to weaponize and use for purposes other than pointing out non-frivolous things, I think something should be established towards police when they do something like that. A client asks for a lawyer.
I love that.
They shouldn't continue to drill them with questions. That should be it. And if it's found out they continue to do that, I don't know. Something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that will probably have to be legislation. Absolutely. The not questioning. It's something that I, as a police officer, actually had brought up because I did realize that
it's a Fifth Amendment violation.
It was a hole in the legislation, and that there technically was nothing stopping police officers from questioning suspects after they've called for a lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was just kind of told, well, it doesn't matter. We don't question suspects, even though we can, we don't. But obviously, from what she's saying,
I was right.
They still do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we have
in the U.S. that would be a Fifth Amendment violation, given the fact that they've been Mirandized and you're effectively compelling them. You're redacting your Miranda.
I got a cell rep later, y'all. Thank you.
Yep, you're good.
Bye,
Abilene.
But I think without diving too deep into that, so I want to make sure that I'm considerate of everyone's time here. I know you got clients and whatnot. I think that energy that Abilene brought is the energy that I want to make sure y'all continue to have, and have the affordability and have the. And this is why I want to do this weekly shit, but also make the door always open for lawyers to bring up new legislation, because it's a more effective system, right? Your legislation that you can push forward is more effective since it's likely to be representing more people backing it.
I would say just one thing. I would say if you're talking about like a lawyer meeting, I think it should be like maybe every 2 weeks, not just every week. If it's important stuff, then
yeah, I mean cadence we can figure out.
Yeah,
I'm of a. The reason why I say every week, and I'm likely to stick with that, is there is no voting taking place in this, right? It is, think of it, call it a meeting, call it a, the time in which lawyers can congregate. And, if once a week is too much, you don't necessarily have to come every week, but it at least allows issues to keep coming up, and meeting notes can be taken. So for those who can't attend, like, because time zones and whatnot, everything will be, you can look back at it. Man, what did they talk about last week? Oh, shit. Boom, boom.
So
sorry, go ahead.
Well, this is just a thing because you were talking about lawyer pay and stuff. Does that mean that the legislation
I'm doing every week?
I think it was, yeah. The thing that Crane pushed through for judges. Does that mean that's staying there?
the judges said they're going to be looking at basically all the legislation and
it's
seeing
not a
if they want
debrief,
to
it's a
keep it.
meeting, but you have to. It's not a mandated meeting, you know.
For the lawyer pay, something on a scale in comparison, because I want to say this. One judge just this week made $160K for taking 5 cases that lasted, or no, taking 8 cases, and 5 of them lasted all but 10 to 20 minutes.
I don't know.
And
I'm gonna be
don't
real.
Get anything except our, $700 an hour.
Yeah, I mean,
Basically, we made like $100.
I think that's going to be resolved very quickly. There's so much like, man, I don't even know. I didn't even want to bring it up because it was too much of a. Is there going to be a state budget and then like Los Santos and Blaine County budget, right?
Yeah.
Are there going to be a separate set of dials? Are the dials going away? Like, there's like. Does Blaine County handle lumber pay, and then Los Santos handles sanitation? Is there going to be sanitation in Paleto too? There's, I think, I don't know how to say this in any kind of way, but July's starting, like literally anything could happen, and so maybe Roman could go to sleep for the 5th time during this. So there's so much unknowns that
yeah. I think I don't want to overcook, but one of the other things we should talk about too is I don't think we've had this in the past, but we should have some like internal DOJ docs about minimum retainer fees. Like if we're gonna do a contract,
I think it needs to be legislated.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Because I'm not trying to say like we need to strong arm people, but like
we shouldn't be undercutting each other.
Yeah.
Sorry, 1 sec.
Yeah.
Should be a good
Hello?
Nino.
Hey, Nino, it's Officer Johnson. I have an Alana reviews here looking for a cell rep if you're available.
I have literally all the lawyers right in front of me. I am.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine.
Let her know that I am currently dealing with another client at the moment. Unfortunately.
Okay, we'll do.
If I can.
Oh, you're fine.
Up.
She has Abilene on backup as well, but she specifically requested you.
Say Abilene works with me. Let her know that, and she's in really good hands.
All right, perfect. I will do.
Okay, awesome. All right.
All right, thank you, Nino.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
He was getting mixed messages. Some people was asking people to come there. Some people were saying to keep it small. It was just a bit of a people weren't excluded for a reason. It was just and it was very last minute thrown together.
Yeah, the TLDR there's a massive holdout, and the courthouse started a huge amount of shit, while simultaneously the judge is working on something. So it's kind of like a impromptu, let's stop this, and there was a mix of let's keep it small to like invite all the lawyers to. Everyone got different messages, so a lot of people didn't know what to do, kind of thing. So but Grace, I don't think you missed too much, to be honest, because even the information we got was probably 10%, and a lot of it sounds like it's up in the air. Anyway, so.
Yeah, no, I'm just kind of curious because, it's like now, there were a couple of people there, and now the rest of us are hearing it, secondhand, third hand, and you know how the game of telephone goes. One person hears something and interprets it one way, another person hears it and interprets it a different way, and then the message changes as it gets passed down to more and more people. So
yeah, I think
curious as to why it wasn't like a, hey, all of the lawyers come do this, just so that they didn't have to repeat it, or you guys didn't have to go and repeat it, or anything.
I would say that none of it was intended as an announcement. It was primarily like a stop, let's tell everyone to chill out and stop shooting up the PD. The new hyper amended constitution's coming out. The island's being split in 2, and there's a lot of open questions that don't have answers for yet. And that is probably like kind of the summary of what happened.
Biggest thing, when is that supposed to be coming into effect?
In a week, 10 days before the election.
Okay. Because what you just said kind of blew my mind of having two jurisdictions, I forgot about that whole thing of, hey, I get to set your pay to whatever I want to in this. If that is what it comes down to, oh my God, that's going to be civil war.
Oh, that's going to happen eventually, no doubt. Like, you know, I mean, you know, we'll see what happens with that.
Oh my God.
I did want to, going back to I want to make sure I don't take up everyone's time, or go beyond it. I wanted to give y'all a opportunity to ask me and Kit any questions in regards to the election, what we're looking to do, etc., etc. I know we talked a lot about it. I know we've talked a lot over the last like week or so. But is there anything particular, whether it's about lawyers or whether your clients or like whatever it might be? I think now might be a really good opportunity to kind of explain at least our thoughts, even if something's not nailed down.
So,
just curious what Kit's role is. You're running for mayor. Is she running for the other county or something?
I think she's his chief of staff.
Yes.
Deputy in this this new system. Is that right?
Let's call it what it is. Secretary of. Wait, what is it? Oh, now I'm confused.
Chief of
staff. Yeah, chief of staff. I think any name changes and stuff, that's probably me and Kit haven't spoken yet. Since then, so we'll like leave things where it is.
Straight here.
Yeah.
No.
So,
that's no. I had a feeling that from the way you were talking, it was chief of staff.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think right now. The main one, like I guess most people here. You said the thing about lawyer pay. You said the thing about trying to flesh stuff out. Until we know this new legislation, I don't want to like specifically say anything because most of my issues were with our current legislation, just like probably some other lawyers here for like, you know, the business proposal that somebody pointed out about, you know, the searches and shit like that.
I will, so I'll explain this. My intent before, and I think the general vibe of it is probably not going to change, which is that entire business legislation needs to be redacted. It's idiotic. It's overreaching. It removes the concept of laissez-faire. It is literally all the reasons not to get a business license and 20 reasons as to how the FBI is going to break into your house.
My issue
instead, just to give the whole spiel here, is I intend to put in a Department of Commerce. The intent of the Department of Commerce is to put business-oriented individuals whom have a thriving passion to help businesses get going. Eve Summers is leading up that charge, and she's going to be getting some others around her. And that the Department of Commerce is going to be an entity that will be the intake for all business approvals, or business proposals. That way they are being looked at very quickly. They will be documented in the order they're coming in. They will be processed in the order they're coming in, with some exceptions. Like, for example, you know, medical services might get a higher priority, for example. But what will come of it is they will approve it with an explanation for the approval. If they decline it, it will come with an explanation as well as a form of recourse. And all of that will be public information. So that if, for example, Tony goes and says, I'm going to start a flower shop, you know, Tony's Flowers, and Kit comes around and she goes and puts it in, and she's like, what the fuck? Tony's stealing my idea. Well, it's going to be public that Tony put it in first. What will not be disclosed is the details, right? So it's going to be a generalized summary that will be public, but some of the like IP related stuff will be hidden out. But what that also does is, if I'm like, you know what, Kit was on my political team, I'm going to approve hers, right? And fuck Tony. The thing is, because it's all logged and available to the public, Tony can come in and sue the sue me, he's gonna have legal recourse. In other words,
So what are you going to do about the people that have already put in their business proposals, and they've been passed, and the ones that have already paid that $50K for a business license?
Wait, what do you mean? If you're already approved, what's the issue?
Are you just gonna grandfather them in, pretty much say that they're passed? Because
are you saying am I gonna go destroy? Because like if they're already passed, I mean they're legitimate businesses.
Well, no, it's that. So they're businesses, but they're not businesses because they don't have their bank accounts yet.
Oh.
But they've already been approved.
They've been approved, but
yeah,
it was under the last. They were under the old legislation.
I do not believe we have the authority to shut down a business at the whim of the mayor, if that's what you mean.
Okay, so, I'm just making sure, like those people, because if they're changing things around,
I think we're talking about the procedure in which to get a business license that will be changed. But if you already have a business license, maybe. Well, I think one thing that, we need to discuss and that the Department of Commerce will need to discuss is kind of the, what's the word I'm looking for, how each business is delegated, whether it's like a retailer or a supplier, or, how it has all of those different options. Maybe that will be something that will be adjusted. But that's not, that'll be the Department of Commerce.
Because just like there were businesses that were already passed in the beginning, right? And they paid their stuff. And then pretty much the mayor went back and made those people kind of resubmit again.
I'm so
like
confused.
One of those things of, are people going to have to resubmit again, just like they did under the last term, pretty much?
Oh, okay, so I don't know if this helps, but I think every proposal that was submitted prior to the new shit was resubmitted as a consequence of tooling that was introduced. And so anything that has been approved should it theoretically be approved. But if you're missing any tools, that may be outside the scope of the mayor's office.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there so maybe I'm missing something here, but like if you don't have like a business account and stuff like that, does anybody?
I think people are just waiting for those right now.
It's a lot of waiting right now. There were people that,
there's nothing that says that they have a business license, that their business has been approved, other than the current administration say so, and there's not really, there's not really any
tells you
sort
if it's approved right on the tablet.
It's something I think that we can talk to a judge about as well, because I know that at least Gatsby,
could
see what businesses were still pending and approved.
Yeah,
I would say that
I'm so confused.
We can get you an answer on that, but
yeah, I'm genuinely lost, not because of what you guys are saying, but rather I would have assumed that the moment it's approved by the mayor, because I've seen the proposal process, but I'm assuming he's clicking something and y'all should be notified in some fashion, whether it's approved, pending, etc. And there should be some sort of the submitter. Yeah.
So I would say, assuming that anybody who already has an approved business license will continue to have one moving forward, that would be something that we should address, making sure that they have the proper documentation and everything that they need to move forward if they don't already have it.
Wait.
Business licenses do exist. For example, a business I'm on retainer for, the owner does have his license on his profile.
But I think the license is separate from the proposal, right? So you can get a business license for the cost, but in regards to the proposal, and all the amenities that come with it. Am I understanding correctly, Grace, that neither you or Roman, who has been approved, has no like tangible virtual like thing that says, hey, you're approved?
Well, we're part of the business. I'm like a co-owner, but I'm not the owner of record, so to speak. And so as far as we know, we're Roman. As far as we know, the owner of record on paper does not have anything tangible to show that their business got approved.
I am so... What the fuck? So let's table this. I'll say, like, I'm not familiar with some of the mechanisms that are in play, but I don't see why we would go and repeal it all. But, you know, I have no intention for that. Unless it's dumb shit. You know what? Let me take it back. Let me be just straight blunt. It is possible we might repeal some, you know? But I doubt 99% of cases are going to be affected. I want to... the reason I'm putting it that way, Grace, is because I think if they've already been approved, they should remain approved. There must have been reason for it. But I would say that the only cases in which I would even consider repealing something is if there was like Max's underwear, right? And it belongs to like someone that's in his cabinet, then fuck that shit, because that should have never been done. So outside of those cases, I don't even think there's a need to. Or like if there was like Bubba's illegal gun somewhere. So like outside of like, you know, these like strange corner cases, I don't see why.
This also kind of opens up the conversation for what is the procedure for you know, removing a business license or for closing down a business. You know, I don't think that that's been addressed at all. So
Nino doesn't care about
the question of
C4 guys.
The Department of Commerce, they can approve this.
Yeah.
Can they also remove it?
Nino isn't going after
make
C4.
The recommendation for removal.
Some of y'all forget, like, just because Reddit is on some retard shit with Nino and CG, Nino has no problem with C4.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a chain gang thing.
As long as there's like a committee, like a Department of Commerce, to handle that, rather than letting like basically two people determine what business can and can't exist in the city. So, oh, good for me. Because I don't know how many people keep asking about that.
There is another thing is that in the long run, I want to put in a lawyer, like sort of dedicated, not dedicated to only work in those cases, but like a go-to lawyer for the Department of Commerce, sort of as a function of ensuring.
I'm so sorry, everyone.
Yep. No, you're good. You're good. To ensure that there's sort of like somebody that's always thinking about how to move and maybe expand on business law, because business law in and of itself is fucking huge of a subject. And whether that's going to be early on in the implementation of the business of commerce, or like whether that's something that gets built out over time, like give it just to everybody. But I do see there being like a go-to, you know what I mean? Whether that's like, if there needs to be like, let's bring some examples up. While I may believe in laissez-faire, I equally believe that there needs to be government restrictions and regulations. Yeah. So for example, I may not, depending on where things go, we may not want people selling material for like $1 each, because I don't know, maybe they're like shitting it out through some like magic okay, not, you know what I mean, like
yeah,
or like I don't know what those cases are right now. I know there were things that were discussed when I was running a mechanic shop, the TLDR being like some fucking bozos where you know, I'll just say it, like the Vagos, for example, were doing sanitation enslaving their, you know, their people to literally just make pots, and then they would go sell it for like 10%. And while, you know, you could be like, yeah, that's cool. No, that literally fucked over all the mechanics in the city. And so there may be healthy reasons for regulation. Another example would be, we wouldn't want necessarily a Kellogg or a Microsoft or a insert
no monopolies.
Monopoly. Yeah, exactly. So you know, all right.
Yeah, that does sound good.
All right. Oh yeah. Any other questions you guys got? I know we kind of hit on a bunch of things, but look, let's, I don't think any, it's a good thing that meeting happened an hour before, like, we met here, because, like, Jesus fucking Christ, we could have spoken about all kinds of shit, and then
a lot different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of stuff that are going to be like small laundry list sort of stuff, because, like, I know I have some small things, like, you know, with the diversion program, you know, renaming it as one, but also certain things where it applies.
Yeah, I feel like we need to change the days on that too. 30 days is a long time in Los Santos, and for non-violent felonies, they shouldn't be waiting 30 days to have their record clean.
Yeah.
For like a reckless driving.
Yeah, expungements used to be like 2 weeks. I mean,
well, not only
I don't
that
know
too
why
is like,
a diversion program can't be 2 weeks.
yeah. Well, in addition to that, like,
wasn't it 2 weeks and then you started the process, then you waited an additional 2 weeks or something, or I don't remember.
You had to wait. I believe it was. Yeah, it was. You had to be.
Maddie's
clean for,
take
like,
on
2
Reddit
weeks
still
or
applies
4
here
weeks or
after.
something like that.
Dude, I low key want to read
you
Reddit
get
today.
the
I feel like
expungement.
today's
You
a prime
get
day for
entered
it.
into the program.
I could tell
and
by
then you
the
have to
level
do it
of.
again.
I think it'd be
Well,
content.
30 days does seem like a lot. I don't think it's too
We'll
bad.
do it.
Especially
Yeah,
if
yeah. I
it's
want to
for
read
a
it.
Felony.
Yeah, we'll do it today. I feel
versus
like
a
today would be.
misdemeanor. I mean, the
Today would be a
program
good day for
specifies
it.
Felonies.
It's fun to point out.
The diversion program, because misdemeanors don't really mean anything at this point, because it won't stop you from being, you know, a group 6 employee or a government employee, whereas a felony will. So that's why the diversion program is felonies, and I think felonies should be 30 days. If if you can't manage to stay, you know, felony free again for 30 days, I think that means you really shouldn't be getting diverted.
Yeah, I agree.
well, the thing is too, I want to see how
I want to
it's being
taste them
applied
so
change
bad.
as well, because the whole contention of if it can't being applied on an appeal bothers me a bit, just because of the fact that a lot of these people would be turned away based on the fact that they won't get a bench trial because there won't be a judge around.
I got one on an appeal because it says bench trial, docket, or any.
Yeah, but I think just a
adjudicating
clarification
process,
on that,
but,
because some people call it, well, if you do it for an appeal, it'll be considered double jeopardy because of these technicalities. But it's like, you know, just to get rid of that, like, get rid of that ambiguity, because I know
agree with that.
I faced some PD members that tried to find a way to wheeze off giving somebody that benefit, even though, like, you know,
Look, I gotta get going here. I'm glad you guys came through. I wish this was earlier so we could spend a little bit more time, but I'm entering that like hyper cook stage, and I gotta go to sleep to wake up tomorrow, kind of thing. You know what I mean? I normally wake up, but I mean like wake up like not dead.
Nino, before you go, can we chat real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming through. Please,
of course,
do not hesitate to call me over the next coming days, especially given that, you know, if you want to talk about something privately, or there's something you want to bring up over here that you want to like kind of re-engage in. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you guys.
we'll call
I
another one
appreciate
too.
it.
Let us know.
All right,
Hell yeah.
good.
Thank you.
Do you want to hop on this and then we'll, unless you want your
no,
Seminole still.
All I was gonna say is you're gonna be.
Okay, let's go
around
across the
tomorrow?
way. Yeah. Let's chat tomorrow.
Let's
It'll
talk
give us some
tomorrow.
time to like cook as well. Here, come over here. Oh my God. Look, I gotta be honest with you. I kind of already knew this was coming. Not because I was told, but because I'd overheard some loosey-lippy things from the judges, and I kind of inferred as much. But I don't think it really changes anything, other than...
I mean, I think potentially the thing it could change, and why I brought it up to Bailey, is that you could choose your deputy mayor. Like, you won't really have to worry about your running mates.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll still put a running mate, or not running mate, but like the people that you're running against, do you still think they'll put them as a deputy mayor?
Yeah, so that is true. I think that ultimately depends on how the cabinet is structured, right? So it's either going to be, you know, at the end of the day, the labels of a cabinet. That maybe I think we're both saying the same thing in different ways. Way I view it is they're saying, look, you could have a council that effectively looks like the existing council, or you could do like, you know, 3 people got power. Like, it's however, you know, the painting is, but ultimately you're only voting in one person, and second place is RIP. Or you could take second place and put them into place. Are we saying the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We are.
I gotta cook a little bit on that. The labels and stuff like that. I generally am leaning towards more cabinet facing, more than anything. And what I mean by that is, like, everyone's got their place, right? And I think that's a good thing for everybody, because a lot of people have been putting in a lot of work. I think that gives them more say and more feeling of like ownership over the entire thing. But transparently, that's something I really want to think through, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you think about it, get rest, and we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay, absolutely. All right, what do you think? You feeling good about this?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it makes sense. I like the idea of 2 mayors. I'm so happy to hear that they are reworking everything, you know, all the legislation and the Constitution. It's absolutely necessary. I don't think that the work stops there, though. I think it's going to be reviewing and figuring out how we can expand and, you know, better it and continue just to grow.
Yeah, you're right. I think there's going to be a lot of that's kind of...
I feel like people have just kind of rested on their laurels for a very long time. They, you know, they got this document, they got this legislation, and they were just like, okay, done deal. We don't need to do anything else. And then, you know, you hear at that meeting that judges were expected to, you know, basically write case laws this whole time, but they found out 2 weeks ago. And I did notice an uptick in case laws, like the last 3 times that I've gone to court, last 2 or 3 times, there's been a case law written. And I thought that was interesting. I was like, why all of a sudden are all these case laws coming out? It's because they were told, finally. I think that should still continue to happen.
Agree. And I think we can, right? I think, you know, the thing that I was most wrapped up about was how does state shit change? How does that look like? And I felt like I kept getting the answer of like, what? There is no such thing as passing new state laws. It's just 2 areas happening to have the same law. What is the vehicle to change the higher level stuff? Like, let's say, you know, let's say there's a disagreement on what attempted murder looks like. Well, can we challenge that? Is that mostly the legislative branch? I think a lot of these things, for the most part, are small, resolvable things that will probably get figured out either when the final thing comes out, or will be figured out, you know, over the course of time.
Yeah.
So. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Let's chat. Yeah, let's chat more tomorrow.
All right. You get some rest, okay?
Yep. All right. I appreciate you, kid. You take care.